Greetings all! Today, we'll be examining the uncommon flying-type Pokemon Crabrawler, the Boxing Pokémon, and its exceptionally rare evolution Crabominable, the Woolly Crab Pokémon. Rowdy as they come, and more than capable of giving a nasty punch, the members of the Crabrawler family are sturdy arthropods that can readily knock you out if you get too close to the precious berries. Crabrawler are six-limbed crabs that possess an armored purple exoskeleton on their forms, with beige coloration on the upper arms of their front two appendages, part of the upper chest and neck, the knee joints on the four back appendages, and on a horn-like split head crest on the very top of their head. Their beady black eyes and small purple mouthparts are framed by a small bit of blue color above the right eye, the tips of their back legs, and the massive punching glove-shaped front pincers they wield on their frontmost two appendages. The evolved form, Crabominable, have a similar body shape but possess a thick coat of white woolly hair across their entire bodies, with only the light blue tips of their forefeet, face, and exposed belly and upper appendages visible from it. Furthermore, they sport a blonde patch of hair on the top of their head with a pair of sprigs. Their mouthparts have been replaced with a large mouth with a few flattened white teeth, and the pincers have morphed in form to have a rounded semi-flat bottom and purple paw print-like marks on their surface. Crabrawler are significantly different from most other crustacean Pokemon in that they do not live in the water at all, and in truth, rarely ever go near it. While they do get access to a few water-type moves, they are of little use, and the lack of power in using them demonstrates that they are not even water-types to begin with. Instead, Crabrawler are pure flying-type Pokemon that specialize in using their massive front pincers not to snip or bite at opponents, but instead beat them into submission with powerful punching attacks, gaining access over time to moves like Power-Up Punch, Dizzy Punch, Dynamic Punch, and even Close Combat, in turn demonstrating they can be a serious threat if given the chance. It seems the adaptation of such a combat style is the result these creatures need to defend their bodies from attack, as their shells are not particularly strong and can be broken with even moderately basic attacks, especially on their bellies and their face. As such, these creatures will viciously defend their weak points by holding up their front pincers as guards, taking the brunt of blows with them and waiting to retaliate until the opponents expose a weak point ripe for an assault. Though they might not be very large, the elastic tissue that holds their exoskeleton together allows them to store an immense amount of potential energy in their joints, unleashing it in powerful punches that can split entire trees in half. The only real problem is that the connective tissue that holds their body parts together has not fully changed from an aquatic lifestyle to deal with such compressive forces, and as a result, it is not uncommon for the pincers to break off while defending themselves or after using them too extensively. Thankfully, this is of little concern to the creatures, as they can easily regrow their pincers within a day or so, and what meat is left in the claw is said to be incredibly delicious and makes for a good soup stock when cooked properly. Under normal circumstances, these creatures are not really supposed to evolve, and will not do so no matter how much they are trained, but that is only because the evolutionary process for these creatures takes a bit of a weird turn and likely arose by pure accident originally. The insatiable need to get to higher ground exhibited by these creatures is still poorly understood, but its penchant for getting them into trouble can leave them in desperate situations sometimes, and it is believed that in a few cases, these creatures gave into their urges and decided to climb the tallest natural structures they could find, with some in particular attempting to climb up an icy mountain peak that may be near them. The few that survive this climb would, however, find themselves stranded in a new, unfamiliar, and dangerous location, and had to adapt in order to survive. Over time, this led the species to begin to develop hair on their bodies in order to insulate the limited amount of body heat they could produce, and over a great deal of time, and allow them to completely change their form to accommodate for the harshness of their new home, facilitating their evolution into the monstrous Crabominable. As such, the only way to get a Crabrawler to evolve is to have an increase in experience level while in the midst of an icy mountain peak, or more commonly, expose them to an ice stone that can simulate the same environmental effects. Compared to the pre-evolved form, these creatures are moderately slower than Crabrawler, but make up for with increased power in all their other stat categories, the biggest change being a massive increase in the physical attack stat, granting them an untold physical power that no other crustacean Pokemon can match. In addition, they gain the capacity to utilize an Ice Punch attack immediately after evolving, and can be trained to initially learn the Avalanche attack and the signature attack, Ice Hammer, which is effectively an Ice-type variation of the powerful Hammer Arm attack, generated as a result of Crabominable being able to lower the temperature of their front appendages to bone-chilling levels. Add in this the capacity to spit icy bubbles to immobilize others with, which helps as they are not very fast moving, and it is quite clear that these beasts are not to be trifled with under any circumstances. Not surprisingly, this can all be tied back to their abilities in turn, as these creatures and their penchant for using their powerful pincers to deal brutal blunt force trauma grants them access to both Hyper Cutter and Iron Fist as possible base abilities, while those that prove to be more territorial and easily irritated can also possess Anger Point as a hidden ability. As far as the stats are concerned in the case of Crabominable, while these beasts might show a big game to some, they're actually fairly restricted in their combat abilities. Nonetheless, with what they are good at, they excel in, with incredible physical power and stamina for surviving in frigid conditions, their base HP and attack stats being above average for fully evolved fighting and ice-type Pokemon, making them a terror to have to confront when in the range of their arms. The life of a Crabrawler is all about competition and berries, and it's not uncommon to see the two intersect on a regular basis. These creatures feed exclusively on berries, and are thus generally found near berry trees in the Alola region, among other locations, fighting against other Crabrawler as if they were in a boxing match in order to get the food that they depend on for survival. Crabrawler will forcefully punch berry trees in order to get the berries to grow at the tops, but while many Crabrawler will gather around these trees as the berries fall, only the Crabrawler that can successfully beat all of the others in battle will be able to feast on the rewards. This sort of fighting lifestyle permeates the entirety of these creatures' minds, as Crabrawler hate to lose innately as part of their personality and are driven uncontrollably by the urge to rise higher in the world, not just in terms of social status amongst relatives, but also physically for some reason, oftentimes climbing up trees near the legs of passing trainers in an effort to get higher up. It seems this is an innate brain reflex they have very little control over, and getting near them while climbing is not a good idea, as even if they are putting themselves in danger of falling by climbing up the side of a building, they meet anyone that disrupts their climbing with a solid punch. Thankfully for some, the defenses of these creatures are not that great, and they can be defeated with a moderate amount of firepower, leaving them to faint and foam at the mouth until they can regain their composure. Moreover, they are not always that intelligent, and have been known to climb a loaded executor by mistake, and search for food like coconuts to supplement their diet of berries, enraging the creatures enough that they will violently shake the offender off and attempt to flatten them with their stomp attack to ensure it doesn't happen again. Much like their pre-evolved form, Crabominable are brutish creatures that value their own survival over that of anyone else, and will gladly swat away anyone that tries to take from their personal food reserves. The thick hair that covers a large portion of the body is quite plush and comfy, and can be used to make high-quality insulated clothes. But anyone that tries to take any from them is foolish, as these monsters can easily crush bones into dust with a single swing of their massive pincers, and will oftentimes start swinging at intruders without even stopping to think whether or not it might be a wise idea. Interestingly enough, the pincers of these beasts have actually devolved over time due to lack of any need for them, reducing the end of their front appendages to semi-flattened crushers built to smash rocks and ice in order to get at food that might be growing underneath the snow. This has worked to effectively increase their physical strength immensely, even to the point where they have been observed smashing through thick walls of ice like they were glass and blocking and turning back avalanches with a flurry of powerful punches. Their life in frigid environments has changed their diet as well, as while they still will actively feed on berries if they can find them, they are more keen on feasting on the native wildlife of their environment, hiding in the snow until a predator walks by before raising up one of their front limbs and crushing their spine in a single blow, making it easier to devour them while they are still alive. When placed in a fight against an opponent, the harsh attitudes of these creatures do not change much, as they will throw punches indiscriminately at people and Pokemon alike, and if they become exceptionally agitated, they may even utilize their own pincers as projectile weapons. For some unknown reason, these entities have gained in evolution the ability to create a pressure pocket at the base of the pincher that, when released, will fire the pincher off like a rocket, creating a deadly weapon that can obliterate targets from afar and deal immense damage to unarmored foes. Overall, Crabominable are monsters that should only be approached if absolutely necessary, as the physical threat they pose is more than enough to make it worth staying away from them in the wild at all costs.
I will admit that I'm more than a bit partial to seafood of all kinds, but I think it would be best for me to avoid these critters, as you should too if they start to get too rowdy. Crabrawler can be more than a bit quirky given their feeding habits and lifestyle, but the spunky nature that drives their instincts can make them into good sparring partners at the very least. Of course, their tendency to hoard berries and clobber the hell out of anyone that tries to steal their stash can make them hard to work with, so trained species will be better left for that role. Crabominable are bulking behemoths in size and mass compared to most crustaceans, and their massive forms lend them a massive deal of stamina and gusto to wield when anything gets in range of their crushing arms. If you're in need of a car crusher or something and can't get a machine up a steep mountain, then these beasts can certainly do it in a pinch. Though said pinch might be the last you feel if you accidentally get in their way.
Though they can be a bit persnickety and irritable from time to time, the members of the Crabrawler family are potent fighters that can make use of their own pinchers as knuckle dusters when it comes to fight the good fight. It might take some extremely bitter cold conditions to make the most of them, but as long as you've got thermal gear to keep you safe, then you might just end up surviving the encounter with them in the wild. Just do yourself a favor and make sure you don't try and run off if one catches sight of you from afar, or you might find the back of your head getting pummeled from a rocket fist straight out of the air. Thank you all for watching this video. It is a great pleasure to share with you all the fruits of my research and all the positives it gives to understanding the wonderful creatures we call Pokemon and how their powers and behaviors function in their world. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more work like it, please give a like, comment, and or subscribe to the channel so you can get regular notifications on when new content is being uploaded. You can also find links to my DeviantArt page, Patreon, and Discord server in the description below. Please, join me on this road to seeing what the world of Pokemon has to share with us, and the many mysteries and wonders that keep us all coming back for more.